2011. Australia still had its first female Prime Minister. Friday was the most hated song of the year. And Australia made the world news when a crocodile attacked a lawnmower at the Australian Reptile Park. Out in the Yarra Valley, the students were stuck. A small group of teachers realised that something had to happen and set out on a quest, not dissimilar to Jason on his quest for the Golden Fleece, to try to answer the question, how can we provide opportunities for our students to do better than their best?
Our motivation was based on the following ideas. We needed to increase student engagement and their learning confidence. We needed to spend less time on surface learning and more time learning deeply. We needed to increase their literacy levels and give them the skills they needed to be effective 21st century learners. To give you an idea of how urgent our need for change was, when we went searching for baseline data outside of the English department, there was none. What we did have was crappy posters. I'm sure some of you have seen these before. PowerPoints with information copied from the internet and copious amounts of notes copied from the board. It was no wonder our kids weren't achieving success in VCE.
Now I'm sure many of you have heard of the implementation dip. Well, this actually followed our journey pretty much exactly. We started with complacency and jumped off the cliff of OMG, WTF, and directly into the valley of despair. You will be pleased to know that we survived the valley, we made the ascent of pain, and we finally arrived at the mountaintop of relief.
So, the idea was raised by our principal, who wanted us to investigate a new approach at teaching for Year 7s. From the initial call for volunteers, a fellowship was formed. They came from really diverse backgrounds. We had art teachers, science teachers, English and Humanities teachers, a literacy coach. We even had a couple of members from the PE department on board. We came from very diverse backgrounds. Some were experienced teachers, some were brand new to teaching, but all were excited about this journey that was ahead of us.
After forming our fellowship, we spent some time developing our program. We were lucky enough to be given time, which I'm sure many of you know can be pretty hard to come by in schools. We knew that we had to focus on skills rather than content. It had to be student-centred and engaging, and we had to improve our students' literacy. We researched different models of inquiry. It was already being done at the school, but we knew it often lacked structure and there was actually little accountability for what was being produced. We visited different schools, we explored all the evidence out there, and we worked with a consultant.
So we decided to call our brand new world-changing program FLIP, which stands for Future Learners Inquiry Program, and it covered content from humanities, English and art. This was our inquiry model that we found suited us best. It's got 4 stages: immersion, investigation, bringing it all together, and going public. Each of these stages is highly structured and has distinct goals that the students must achieve before they can move on to the next stage. We also invented a instructional model. This is how we structured all of our lessons without going into too much detail. It had learning intentions and success criteria and was based on the Gradual Release of Responsibility workshop model.
As well as spending all this time on the pedagogical development, we also spend a lot of time forging the strength of our fellowship. We knew that we had to trust each other on this journey. The guilt you feel when you let your team down also comes in pretty handy at times. We built this relationship through a common love of food. We ate together, we drank together, and then we ate some more together as we developed our program that we knew was going to change the world. And then we reached the edge of the cliff.
Now, while we were all very prepared to take our leap of faith off the edge of this cliff and into the brave new world, I don't think any of us fully understood the reality of what this was going to be like. I'm an art teacher, so I'll paint a bit of a picture for you about what it was like. It's day 1 of FLIP, day 1 of Year 7 for our new students. We had no walls. This isn't actually our classroom, but it looked very similar to this. To fit in our vision of changing the way we teach and the environment that we teach in, we decided to remove the walls that separated our classrooms. We had this idea that we'd have these beautiful glass folding doors that we could open and close to suit our needs. What we ended up with was an unfinished building project, no doors, and concrete where walls used to be. We had 105 students, 15 of whom had significant special needs, which ranged from behaviour disorders to extremely low ability. We also had at least 1 selective mute. They had no lockers and we were struggling to control them. On the very first day of Year 7, our first flip lessons, we actually sent 3 of them home. The idea of an open plan classroom was familiar to some of them, but the idea of a flexible learning space was a brand new one. We're also facing the additional challenge of staff outside the program not being totally on board with what we were trying to do. Team teaching was a new thing for the majority of us. As teachers, we were used to working in classrooms with really nice walls and with our own group of students and no accountability to anybody else. The FLIP program meant that most of our staff members were sharing their classes with at least one other person, and the flexible learning environment meant we're often working as a whole group or dealing with each other's students.
It would be fair to say that OMG WTF became the most commonly used phrase in our office at this time. None of us were prepared in any way for what we were dealing with. Just to give you an idea, this is our great plan about our flexible open learning space. We would start with everyone together for the beginning of the lesson. We'd break off into smaller groups for some guided practice and some modelling, then give the students some choice about where they work for their independent practice, and then try to bring them all together at the end for a recap at the end of the lesson.
This was an absolute disaster. Although the theory made sense and we'd seen it working in schools that we'd visited, our students did not have the training, the social skills or ability to function in this type of environment. We were making the fatal mistake of trying to teach the way we wanted to and the way we dreamed about how it should be, instead of teaching the kids that we had in front of us. We were failing to give them the opportunity to do better than their best. The lack of structure was setting many of our students up to fail. It was also setting us as teachers up to fail when we saw our hard work falling apart on a daily basis.
So this was us as we crash landed face first in the valley of despair. But we didn't give up our belief that our students could do better than their best. We knew that we needed to improve their engagement, their confidence, their literacy and their 21st century learning skills. And our commitment to the program and to each other meant that we stopped, cried, screamed a little, but ultimately reflected and moved forward.
So we sat down over a glass of wine, maybe a few bottles, and tried to focus on what mattered most for our kids. We realised that a structured approach to teaching the environment was paramount for our kids to feel safe. For many of them, school is the only place where they receive structure and routine, and it was our responsibility to provide this for them consistently. We didn't stop bringing them together as a whole group, but what we did do was we reduced the amount of movement and moved back into our classrooms. We decided that our goal was to improve student literacy, and we'd become distracted trying to force collaboration on a group of kids who just weren't ready for it. Student choice was also something that was really important to us, so we adapted our curriculum to provide more of this.
It was after this refocusing that we finally started to see some results. And the first place we saw them was in student writing. The kids were starting to see writing as an essential part of their learning. And when we spent less time on the things that didn't matter, like forced collaboration, we were able to spend more time on actually teaching them how to write. This included the explicit teaching of writing to learn strategies, note-taking and extended writing like paragraphs, essays and reports. The results we got were far superior to anything that we could have expected. If you remember back, we actually couldn't find any good writing samples from outside the English department before the program. Now, our kids are writing essays, reports, articles, letters, and most importantly, they were quality pieces.
Our refocusing also saw us spending more time on art and letting our students show their creativity, which was definitely lacking at the start of the program. During our going public stage, students started to make documentaries about how to be a better tennis player and how to do wicked tricks on your scooter. They were writing letters to the Prime Minister and receiving replies about their concerns for the environment. They were even running cooking classes using slightly modified ancient recipes. Part of the going public stage also involves the students having to educate others about what they have learnt. We introduced a no opt-out policy, which meant that all of our students had to present to at least a small group of their peers. We invited parents into the school to view what their children had been learning and creating, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. It was these small rays of light that enabled us to survive our very first year of FLIP.
Reflection and refinement continues to be an essential part of our program. We meet regularly to assess our lessons and units and are constantly trying to improve them. One of the biggest changes we made was to our curriculum areas. What we realised was that if we were bored and confused by the content, then our kids definitely were. We also introduced an open inquiry at the end of each year. This meant students could apply these skills to any topic that they wanted to learn more about. It just had to make a difference to themselves or someone else at either a local or a global level. We also upped our standards. This might sound bad, but not submitting work had actually been a little bit acceptable, and this actually represented a pretty significant culture shift. We're really pleased to say that our kids rose to the challenge, albeit with a little pushing from us, and actually got all their work in, and it was a great standard. 2 years later, we were able to roll the program out into year 8, which meant we had more staff teaching in it, and the students were able to consolidate their skills.
So the results from the program, some have been to be expected and some have been a really pleasant surprise. The current group of students who started FLIP in 2011 are now in year 11, and we're seeing them develop an ability to seamlessly use writing strategies to improve their learning. They are happy to accept feedback and use it as a tool for improvement. Their research skills are highly developed, and they're able to ask questions about their own learning as well as about the content that we're trying to teach them. We realised that we no longer have to spend time teaching our senior students the basics of writing. They already know how to write a paragraph, how to read an essay, how to take amazing notes and write an effective essay. Instead, we get to spend time improving the quality of what they are producing, adding depth to their knowledge. As a group, they can still be really challenging in terms of their behaviour, but they're not afraid of hard work. All the students who have come through the program so far understand that they can learn anything. We say this phrase to them all the time. They have a deeper understanding of content and the confidence that they can achieve success and do better than their best.
The staff in the program have also seen a pretty significant shift in their practice. We're no longer scared when someone wants to come into our classroom. In fact, we embrace it and relish it. We spend much more time collaborating and engaged in professional conversations both at work and outside of it. We share our classes and we share our ideas, and we're constantly trying to improve by learning from each other. The ideas that started in FLIP have also spread across the school. Some of the, we haven't quite reached our world domination stage yet, but we're still working towards it, and we think we're going to get there eventually. Some of the pedagogical approaches that we started in FLIP, such as learning intentions and success criteria, an instructional model, and the belief that teaching literacy is the responsibility of all teachers, have now spread across and are now whole school expectations.
So we have now reached the mountaintop of relief. We're very happy to be there, and we're starting to see results, and our hard work is paying off. However, even though we know that we have reached the summit, we are very aware that at any time some kind of catastrophic earthquake could bring us back down into the valley of despair.
So the question that we set out to answer was, how can I provide opportunities for our students to do better than their best? We had to start with the belief that all students could do better, and we had to instill this belief in our students. We had to provide a structured learning environment in terms of content and pedagogy. We had to focus on what mattered most for the kids in front of us, which was choice and explicitly teaching the skills that they needed to be able to achieve. We also gave them opportunities to develop their creativity and to look at different ways to communicate their learning.
So, what did we learn about ourselves as teachers? Well, first we've learned a hell of a lot about being resilient and persevering. That you can't change everything at once, and that you must accept failure in order to move forward. We know that it's really important to have a willing coalition with you who share your vision. We know that we need to keep reflecting, refining, and adapting to constantly improve our practice. We know that we can also never become complacent. As a byproduct of this program, we've created opportunities for ourselves to become better teachers and also better leaders. What did we learn about the students? We learnt that if you give them the opportunity, they really do want to do better than their best, and they will rise to any challenge that you give them. They are capable of sustained, meaningful, and quality writing and inquiry if you put the structures in place to help them achieve. And even though they might be scared or embarrassed, they really do want to share what they've been learning with other people. So, where to now for us? Well, we're actually not 100% sure, so we're really hoping to get some great ideas from everyone today. But what we do know is that we can never stop our learning and pushing our students to try to be better than their best. So we thought to finish off, it'd be a really good idea for you to hear, not just from us, but from the students who have been involved in the program. After all, what we're doing is all about them.
I think FLIP is about doing different topics under one subject.
Writing essays and learning about history and stuff like that.
That's going to be to do with English writing and more writing.
I think it's about learning about just a lot of different things and like what you want to learn about all under one subject.
It's the fact it was something new. We've never done inquiry projects mixed with going public activities, mixed with doing essays we'd never really done before.
When we learn about a few different topics that we get to pick one of those topics to learn more about and then do more on that.
I think that flip gave me a better understanding to what the world was like before we came into it.
Just the way of research and kind of asking yourself more questions, not just taking it out of the book.
And you learn all the different ways to research stuff that I had no idea about, like turning a question into a statement and all that, which just makes everything easier, and it made my presentations 10 times better. And
It's really helped with like learning how to write an essay with Teal and like footnotes and all that sort of stuff.
Stuff I learned, well, I could have learned 8, 9. I learned Year 7, which made everything so much easier.
And like be able to like do what is required.
I think the most important thing that I learned from doing Flip was the way that I learned.
The benefit for me, like from Flip, was probably learning how I am and who I am, and the fact that I'm not only logical but I can be creative.
The going public stuff and being more creative. I'm not usually a creative person, but I helped develop that.
I didn't think I could go in front of the principal and have a meeting with him, but I did.
Flip has made me more confident in what I do because it helps me with public speaking and things like that. And
I reckon, probably sounds a bit weird, but kind of with like speaking in public, with social, just being social, I guess.
Everything I could achieve, my essay and my going public, basically the whole thing, but after the teachers gave me help and I started to understand it, I aced it.
It makes you want to learn about, you get to learn about what you want to learn about instead of doing what you're told to do.
It's enjoyable and you actually want to do Flip and you look forward to doing Flip.
Now I can write a really good essay because Flip helped me.
Thank you.